Hi, this is Jeremy Plymell with MIT 822 Module 5. How I went about this assignment was I read the resources that were required of us, and then I generated a few ideas that I had about how the brain works and how we learn things, and I put those in a basic slide, and then I used that to create two examples that I will show you at the end. So we're going to start with basic information. And we have cognitive overload, brain function, intrinsic load, and prior learning. With the cognitive overload, the main concept is your brain only has a limited capacity to learn concepts at one time. And not everybody's brain is the same, obviously, so some people can learn more things at once than other people, which is important to understand because you have a room full of 20 to 30 kids. Overload is when too many processes happen at once. Brain function. All right, so we have our brain filters and it builds. So what it filters, it says, okay, I already know this, so I'm filtering that. And then it selects new relevant information that we want to learn. Now, relevant is in the eye of beholder. So what it selects is relevant. You know, it could be relevant to you, might not be relevant to someone else. And then your brain will build pathways. So it tries to assign a new path for that information and link it to a pre-existing information. Intrinsic load. So multiple processes happen when you learn, and they're all happening at the same time. Understanding prior concepts will help you learn a new concept. So for instance, I learned about nuclear power in the Navy. I had no idea about nuclear power. So no one could walk up to me on day one and say, hey, this is how nuclear fission works. It doesn't work like that, especially complex processes. You have to learn things first, and those are going to be processing in your brain while you're trying to learn the new concept. So for instance, I had to learn about atomic structure, basic physics, and chemistry prior to learning about how nuclear fission works. Prior learning. Prior knowledge builds upon what you have already learned, whereas prior learning is more of how you learned it and where you learned it, how the information is presented in terms of left to right, top down, verbal, visual, text, format. So those are all going to they're all going to play on how well you're able to learn or interpret what you're seeing. Because if we tried to put something up there in a crazy font or we flipped it upside down, then it's going to be a little harder for your brain to recognize that, oh, this is something that I need to be learning. So after discussing that, now we're going to look at the two examples I've created. The first one is pretty rough. All right, wow. So when you look at this graphic is going to have the same information as the next graph I'm going to show you, but it's just presented in a different way. So if you look at this, I have this cognitive overload is bad. I have it at an angle, it's weird font, and the overall thing that I see in this picture is the picture and the question mark, like why? Well, in this case, why is this even here? It's not helping anything. I have confusing fonts that I've used, unusual placement, so I turned this on its side and placed it upside down, and you can see there's too much competing information. Now we're going to look at the same information but on a more presentable graphic. So right here, it's very basic. At the top, it says cognitive overload. Well, that's what we're discussing. I have focused placement for all three of my topics that I wanted to discuss. I have manageable information, so it's a very small amount of information and it's easy to read font. The graphic I chose to go with this is just very simple and it's not in the way, it's not overbearing or anything else. And then the resources that I used involve the resource that was given to us, as well as tools Adobe Spark, Google Slides, and Screencast-O-Matic. Thank you very much.